Okay, let's get one thing established first on this assignment here. It's the same thing you did last time, but it's a little bit tougher. Here's what you don't do. This is not a parentheses, okay? You cannot multiply 5 by x and 5 by 2. You cannot do that. You can't do it like it is a parentheses. That's number one, okay? So do not take 5 times x and 5 times 2. None of these, okay? None of these have parentheses. Here's another thing. You don't put your dist label until this number here has been canceled out. Now that number there in front of the absolute value, that means multiply, but you can't do the rainbows, okay? You cannot do the distributive property. What you're going to do is, what's the opposite of times? It'd be divide, okay? So if I divide by 5 and I divide by 5, 25 divided by 5 is 5. And over here I write my absolute value, the brackets, and then x plus 2. Now that you don't have any numbers outside of here, you can now put your dist label. Okay, so it's positive, so then it becomes just like we just did. So 5, negative 5, because I could be at 5 or negative 5, and then I put x plus 2. So on one side I have minus 2, and that's 3. Minus 2, that's negative 7. Okay? That's the only difference. Okay? Now again, you can't label this right here. The 17 is not your distance because you have this plus 3 outside. So what's the opposite of plus 3? It'd be minus 3. So that is 14. And now I have my absolute value and then negative 2x plus 1. So now there's no more numbers outside of these brackets, okay? I don't care what's inside, but for now I just look outside and 14 is the only thing I see, so that could be my distance, okay? So you could do 14 and negative 14, and then you put your negative 2x plus 1. So I'm minus 1, 14 minus 1 is 13. Then I divide by negative 2. 13 divided by negative 2 is negative 6.5. So if you get a decimal, that's okay. Now I'm minus 1. Negative 14 minus 1 is negative 15, and then negative 2x. Then you divide by negative 2, and that's going to be 7.5. Okay, we're going to keep this rolling here. Now, again, now you have 3 numbers, 24, 6, and 3, okay? Well, that can't be the distance, obviously, when there's a 3 and a 6 outside. So we have times 3 and minus 6. So I get rid of the minus 6 first. 24 plus 6 is 30. And then I still got the 3. You just keep lining everything up. Now I still don't have my dist, my distance, because we have this 3 outside. So the opposite of times 3 is to divide by 3. So 30 divided by 3 is 10. Now there's no more numbers outside except for the 10, so the 10 is my distance, dist, and it's positive, so I just proceed to my side. So you could be at 10 or negative 10. So on one side you got 5y minus 7, and then you got 5y minus 7 here. So I add 7, 10 plus 7 is 17, so 5y equals 17. And then I divide by 5. 17 divided by 5 equals 3.4. It's a decimal, that's okay. Plus 7, negative 10 plus 7 is negative 3. Don't be afraid. If you don't know that, punch it in the calculator. Divide by 5, and negative 3 divided by 5 is negative 0.6. Okay, my next problem. Here's the absolute value. You don't have your distance yet because there's a plus 3 outside. So minus 3, minus 3. Now 1 minus 3 is negative 2. And now negative 2 is the only thing outside of the brackets. So that's your distance, but your distance can't be a negative. So instead of making a table, I write no solution. Okay, here's my next one. Oops, don't make that yet. I'm not saying you're not going to, but you don't have your distance because you have numbers outside. So there's no op sign here. That means times and then minus 2. So I got a plus 2. That's 18. So negative 3 times the absolute value x plus 4. The opposite of times is to divide. So I need to divide both sides. But when I divide, I got to divide by the same number with the same sign, negative 3. So that is negative 6. Now I have my distance, because there's nothing out, no more numbers outside, okay? The plus 4 is inside, so I don't count that. The plus 4 is for the table. But I can't have a negative distance, so that is no solution. Okay, next one. Again, that's not your distance because there's a times 4 and a plus 7 outside. So you got to do the opposite of plus 7, which would be minus 7, and that would be 20. The opposite of times 4 would be divide by 4. So that is going to be 5, and then we have x minus 4. Now I have my distance, okay? So on one side we have x minus 4 and then 5. On the other side I go x minus 4 again, but this side I do negative 5. So I plus 4, that equals 9. Plus 4, negative 5 plus 4 is negative 1. Okay, next problem. That 20 can't be your distance, your dist, because there's a 5 outside. Now it's multiplication, so the opposite of times 5 would be divide by 5. Don't just write x, you got to have the absolute value around it. Now you have your distance, and it's positive, so I go to my table. So inside you got x. Distance is 4, but remember the distance from 0, I mean, when I say distance, it means distance from 0. That could be 4 or negative 4. And those are solved. X is by themselves, by himself in both of them. Okay, now this is an equals negative 66. Alright, so we don't have our distance yet because we have to deal with this and this. This means times when it's in front, and then plus 6. Well, you deal with the plus 6 first, just like you would in an equation. You undo the adding and subtracting first. So I take negative 66 minus 6, that's negative 72. Now I have my absolute value, but still, we got the negative 2. So you still don't have your distance because you have that negative 2 outside. So the opposite of times negative 2 would be to divide by negative 2. Not divide by positive 2. When you divide, it's by the same number. Okay, negative 72 divided by negative 2 is 36. Now you have your distance, okay, because there's nothing left outside. So the distance is 36. Could also be negative 36, then 3x plus 6. Minus 6, 36 minus 6 is 30. Then divide by 3, and x equals 10. Minus 6, negative 36 minus 6 is negative, pushes it out to negative 42, and then 3x, divide by 3, and that's negative 14. Okay, hopefully that made sense.